Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Appreciate you guys stopping by here. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be cool. If you guys are also a fan of the channel, you guys will probably be a fan of the radio show. Myself and my guy, Leroy Horde. Weekdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We go live. You guys can watch the program and get involved in the chat. Do so. Subscribe. I always put the link to that handle in the description. And you guys could check us on out. So there was a fascinating little blurb. You know, a lot of the times I kind of roll my eyes at what hits like the NBA Centrals of the world, and somebody had sent me this, and I got tagged in it. I also got sent on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh, that's actually one that kind of made me stop for a second," because it's one of those headlines that when you see around your team, or a tweet around your team, or news around a team that you cover, and you're just like, well, that doesn't sound like them. So it kind of almost piques your interest because, you know, we've been drinking at the same well for a lot of this stuff. Been trying to dive into draft season and get to more and more of the prospects that have been around and who have been visiting the Miami Heat. And we're a week plus away from the NBA draft. Maybe the season ends tonight, and all of a sudden things open up for the Miami Heat and the Jimmy Butler conversations. Will certainly be fascinating to see. But this is not typically something you hear around the Miami Heat and their drafts. And that is the Miami Heat trading up in the draft, right? Like trading up, trading picks. You'll see Miami Heat back there. Somebody dropping to the Miami Heat or some hidden gem that they've been waiting on. Okay, that's seems right in line with the Miami Heat. In fact, that's usually the theme of their drafts. Justice Winslow fell to them. Tyler Hero fell to them. Even Jaime Jaquez, a lot of fell to him. Perfect fit. Oh, Cam Whitmore was going to fall to the Miami Heat. They aren't typically the team that is going to trade up in the draft. And so here's a story. This is from Hoopswire, Sam Amico, and he is writing off of a blurb that was in Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. He was doing their new mock draft, which, for the record, Kevin O'Connor has Tyler Kolek from Marquette. Usually been a school the Heat have found success with, surely. But he has them as the latest draft pick to go. Some of the others who have been mentioned with Miami, Ron Holland, I think, was the last one that he had mocked to the Miami Heat. So he has him going up to 9th. And this is where Kevin writes, with multiple teams in the teens trying to move up, the 9th pick could be ripe for a trade. Who really makes sense for the Grizzlies here? Holland is an upside choice worth taking a swing on. Khalil Ware could fill the void left by Steven Adams, but he's still raw. Others who are available don't really fulfill Memphis' biggest needs, so why not acquire more assets? Which is kind of my initial reaction to this part of the report, which comes from Sam. Sam then says, multiple teams drafting 13 through 19 are attempting to move up in the NBA draft, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer. That list would include the Sacramento Kings, Portland Trailblazers, Miami Heat, Lakers, Orlando Magic, and Toronto Raptors, which specifically would like to get in a lot of remains unclear. One league source tells Hoopswire last week that he envisions the Lakers and the Heat making a strong play for a top 5 pick. And I was just looking at it like, huh? That's not something I really expected to read in regards to Miami. The Lakers, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the Lakers game. I don't know really what they're looking for there. I would feel like the Lakers, you know, would want to. Are they going to draft Bronny top 5? Like, I don't know what they're trying to seek there. But the Heat, top 5, could I picture the Miami Heat trading into the top 5? Because if they have done that, they have kind of kept it close to the vest on their workouts because they really haven't gone with, you know, even the Herald. The Herald's list of the teams, the guys that they've recorded. Devin Carter. Okay, Devin Carter's been around their range, and I would say even Devin Carter is moving up a lot of draft boards pretty rapidly. Zach Edey, probably one of the most interesting players in the draft because of his collegiate success, how people believe that he could do that in the pros. Ron Holland, we mentioned. Khalil Ware, we've talked about here on the channel before. Fascinating prospect for sure. Wonder how much Miami would believe in him young. USC guard Isaiah Collier, and Kashad Johnson, and Tristan Newton. None of these guys are really looked at in that range. They're looked at first-round picks, but none of them, I would say, are looked upon as, with top 5 potential for the Miami Heat. So I guess I look at it like this. There's a couple ways. One, Amico's source here is just missing the mark, and you're just trying to put, hey, these are 2 flashy organizations. They're looking to get to the top of a draft, which is not looked upon as the sexiest draft in the world. So there's that. Let's say the Miami Heat really are interested in going and getting somebody up that high. Let's look at somebody like Devin Carter, right? Devin Carter is, was one point thought, hey, going to go into the teens. Now, maybe he's going top 10. Could the Miami Heat be like, you know what? The price this year isn't that strong. Could they hop in there and be like, we'll get Devin Carter top 5 because we just think he's, and I don't know this. I'm just throwing a name out there that I've seen tied to the Heat, obviously, as Heat connections because of the Anthony Carter connections with whatnot. But let's just say they really like Devin a lot. What would be a place they definitely could get him and no one's going to be able to get their paws on him? Top 5. That would be the reason, to me, Miami would want to get into the top 5. Now, I don't necessarily know of any of these top prospects who they really haven't been rumored to work out. I don't see the Miami Heat sitting here and being like, yeah, Reed Shepherd, boom, we definitely need to get him. I don't know. I'm not sure if they got their eyes on somebody like that. I'm just speculating if that is the case, and it is very unheat-like for me to immediately buy into this. But the case for why would Miami do it is, well, they have somebody they definitely want, and they're afraid at their pick they can't get him. What is the safe pick that they can go trade to go get him? And that's the reasoning for that. The other reason, you could just look at Miami and be like, all right, they're working on getting a prospect that let's just say the Miami Heat are talking to the Cavs, and the Cavs want this prospect. Let's say the Cavs want Reed Shepherd, but they don't have that pick. And they're saying, hey, if you can go get him, we would be much more prone to making a deal for Donovan Mitchell than, you getting whoever the hell you get, land a few picks in front of us. That could be another reason why the Miami Heat would be interested in going into the top 5, that they see an opportunity to go get an asset, to go and flip to another team, more so than me saying, oh, one of these top 5 guys Miami is absolutely in love with, and they can't imagine their world without it. So I could see them, are they, if this report has validity to it, is Miami looking at this as an opportunity to go get somebody that a team they're talking to definitely wants X prospect? The other thing that you could look at it, let's just say the Miami's just doing this for themselves, that, hey, they have to spend a lot of money on Bam, a lot of money on Jimmy Butler, potentially more money on Jimmy Butler, spend a lot of money on Tyler Hero. You got to get as much cheap help as you can get that you think could truly be successful in this league. Maybe they really do want Zach Edey. After working him out, they love him. They think he's Heat culture personified. Boom. We now have a center on the cheap skis, and we know no one else is going to grab him, and we're going to be kicking ourselves because we think that's the perfect guy to add to this. So my first instinct on reading this from Sam sounds very unlike the Miami Heat. They're usually the team that lets the other team slip up and they take the guy that nobody had seen or undervalues. That's just usually how Adam Simon and the front office seems to work. Although it was interesting, Anthony Chang wrote a really good piece today in the Miami Herald. We'll spoil the whole thing, but it was talking about, Spo really isn't necessarily going to have more input on this year's draft, but he has more time to have input in this year's draft. So maybe there's somebody that really jumped out to Eric Spoelstra and that they're aligned with on the front office, and that this emboldens the Miami Heat to make another move, because a Spo who has 4 days off from the NBA Finals like last year isn't going to feel as keen and being like, hey, we need to go get that guy. Because the front office is going to look at it and be like, you don't even know who these guys are. Like, what are you doing, Spo? But Spo having, all of these months off, all these weeks off doing Lord knows what, I guess, getting ready for Team USA and being in dad mode. I'm sure he's like firing up the iPad at night just like we are. I'm like, oh, yeah, let me just see, what does this Devin Carter's got going on? How has he developed? And Spo may just be like, because he's got a lot of pull in the organization now, just signed a monster extension and being like, hey, I want this kid. And he's like, in front office, Adam Simon's being like, yeah, but he's kind of shooting up draft boards, Spo. And Spo's like, well, where can we assure that we're going to get him? And, Adam says, well, if we had a top 5 pick, all right, go. If you have the backing of somebody like Spo, then the front office might be more emboldened to do that. It's just not typically what they do. Is it an impossible thing to foresee? No. But I think it's curious that with this draft in particular, a lot of guys say, hey, these are role guys. If you look at somebody maybe like a who was it just looking at recently? This was Tristan da Silva, right? Tristan da Silva is a guy who everybody seems to really love. Not necessarily as a star, but is like 6'8", 6'10" wingspan, 4-year player at Colorado, plays both sides of the floors, pretty money shooter, can do a little bit of everything. Maybe nobody really sees him as a star. His drafts go from like 13, 14, 19, 17. Only place I really see taking a poop on him is CBS. I saw a CBS mock that had him as a second rounder. But I think people just really look at me like, hey, this guy's gonna be able to produce for you. But if you're a franchise, it's like, all right, but who also thinks they're gonna produce for us? If that's the guy you love, if you think all these guys are pretty similar, nobody's a star, right? But you think all these guys are pretty similar, and you can go grab X player, be for sure that you get him, because no one's going to reach that high for him. It may be people will look at you and say, hey, that's a reach. But in other drafts, with a draft that's filled with some older players, some more role-filling potential players, if you have the guy that you specifically think fills your needs, then it makes sense to you. So, I don't want to completely dismiss it. It's surprising for sure. I don't think I've read the Heat are trying to make a top 5 play for a draft pick I don't think ever. So I was definitely taken aback to read something a little bit. Lakers, I'm always just like, Lakers. Yeah, Lakers. They always say something crazy about the Lakers, but the Heat, the Heat doing a bold thing like that, I was a little bit like, okay, that doesn't sound very Heat-like, but let's see where it's at. Let me know what you guys think. But certainly was interesting to read that.